There is a weed growing right in the middle of my neighbor Daniel's vegetable garden right now, not 3 inches from his carrot row. It has been there all season. Daniel walks past it every single morning with the hoe in his hand, and it would take him 1 second to take that weed out. He leaves it standing on purpose. Now, this is a man whose garden is so clean and so orderly that folks slow their buggies down just to look at it. Nothing in that garden is there by accident. And when I finally asked him about that weed, he looked at me the way you might look at a man who asks why the barn has doors. Because in that community, some of the plants you and I have been yanking out and tossing on the burn pile our whole lives are treated like tools. A few of them are treated like treasure. Today I'm going to show you 6 of them, what each one is quietly doing for the ground it grows in, and exactly when to leave one alone and when to take it out. And stay with me all the way to the end, because the 6th weed is the one with the root like a bar of gold, and the reason Daniel will not pull it comes down to one specific thing. That root is doing 2 and 3 feet under the garden, down where no shovel and no bag of fertilizer will ever reach. Nobody ever explains that part. I am going to. I'm Bill, though most folks online know me as Backyard Bill. I garden on a little piece of land in rural Ohio, right alongside an Amish settlement, and those neighbors are the best teachers I have ever had. I spent 30 years learning hard lessons in this backyard, and for too many of those years, I fought it with a rototiller and a shelf full of chemicals, and I lost. Most of what I know now came across the fence from my friend Daniel. Now, before we meet the first weed, I want to be honest about where I started, because I suspect it sounds familiar. For most of my life, a weed was an enemy. Any green thing I did not plant got pulled, sprayed, or smothered, and I spent good money doing. Between the sprays, the rolls of weed barrier fabric, and the pre-emergent granules, I figure I was spending $80 to $100 a season just keeping ground bare. $80 to $100 every single year for dirt with nothing on it. And nobody at the garden center ever told me the part that matters. Bare ground is not clean ground. Bare ground is an open invitation. Every time I ripped a weed out, roots and all, I turned over a little pocket of soil, and I woke up hundreds of weed seeds that had been sleeping down there in the dark, some of them for decades, just waiting for light. I was not winning that war. I was recruiting for the other side. Daniel does almost none of that pulling, and his garden has fewer weed problems than mine ever did. The difference is that he reads his weeds before he ever touches them, and by the end of today you will read 6 of them too. And hold on to that question about the golden root, because we are coming back to it, and the answer changed how I treat this whole garden. Now, learning to read your weed is one layer of a whole system, and I wrote that whole system down in a book called The 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol. It is the complete old world system I learned from my Amish neighbors for building a garden that defends itself from pests without chemicals, laid out as a 30-day protocol any home gardener can follow 1 week at a time. The very first week is called Kill Nothing, Build Everything, and after today, I think you will understand exactly why it starts that way. There are 117 pages in it, covering the 5 defense layers, the setup week, all 30 days, and the deeper skills too: seed saving, hand tools, and preserving the harvest. It costs $17 right now, marked down from $47. $17 one time against a shelf of sprays you buy again every single season. For a lot of folks, it pays for itself before the first month is out. Now go ahead and grab your phone. Open up your camera, same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's meet weed number 1, and I would bet money you stepped over it on the way to your mailbox this morning. Weed number 1 is purslane. It hugs the ground in the hottest, driest corner of the garden, the spot by the driveway where nothing else will grow in July. The stems are reddish and smooth, and the leaves fat little paddles, thick like a tiny jade. For years, I scraped it off my beds with a hoe and felt productive doing it. Then one August afternoon, I watched Daniel's boys picking it into a bowl. They were not weeding. They were harvesting supper. Purslane is one of the most nutritious greens that will ever grow on your property, with a lemony crunch. And the old farm families ate it all summer for free while the rest of us were buying bag salad. But the eating is only half the story. Out in the beds, purslane works as a living mulch. Those thick leaves shade the soil, and shaded soil in an Ohio July stays cooler and holds its moisture instead of baking into a crust. Daniel lets it run under his tall crops like a green carpet, and the tomatoes above it never seem to feel the drought the way mine used to. One warning before you ever taste it: purslane has a look-alike called spotted spurge. Snap a stem to check. Purslane bleeds clear. Spurge bleeds milky white. If the sap is white, it is purslane, so leave it out of the kitchen. And one more thing I learned the hard way. Back in my rototiller days, never till purslane under. Every chopped piece of stem can root and become a new plant, so tilling one plant plants 100. If you truly need it gone from a bed, pull the whole plant on a hot, dry morning. Lay them on the fence rail or the driveway until they are crisp. Then compost them, simple as that. So that is the first one, food and mulch, wearing a weed costume. But the second one does something even better. It makes fertilizer out of thin air, and I mean that almost literally. Weed number 2 is white clover, the little 3-leaf carpet with the round white blossoms that shows up in lawns and pathways. My father fought clover in his lawn his entire life, and it turns out the clover was the best thing in that lawn. Here is what is happening under it. On clover roots there are little bumps called nodules, about the size of a pinhead. Inside those bumps live helpful soil bacteria, and together the plant and the bacteria pull nitrogen right out of the air and fix it into the ground. Nitrogen is the very first number on that bag of 10-10-10 I used to haul home every spring. Clover makes it free, day and night, all season long. That is why Daniel's people have always been glad to see clover in a pasture and around a garden. Walk the grass paths between an Amish family's vegetable beds, and you will often find clover growing there on purpose, seeded by hand. It stays green through drought. When grass browns out, it feeds the honeybees and the bumblebees from those white blossoms all summer. And it is quietly charging the soil on either side of the path with nitrogen the vegetables can use if you want to put it to work directly. Do what I do now around my corn and my squash, the hungry crops. Cut a handful of clover with shears, lay it right on the soil around the plant as a thin green mulch. As it breaks down, it feeds them. The only time clover earns removal is when it creeps up into a seedbed and starts crowding baby plants. Then you pull just what is in the bed and you thank it on the way out. Now, the third weed on this list cannot feed you and will not fertilize anything. Daniel values it anyway because this one talks. It tells you something about your ground that you cannot see, and once you learn to listen, it will save your back. Weed number 3 is broadleaf plantain, not the banana, no relation. This is the low rosette of ribbed oval leaves you see along path edges beside gates next to the driveway and in that packed strip where everyone walks to the spigot. And that location is the whole message. Plantain thrives in compacted ground, soil pressed so hard that water runs off it and roots can barely breathe. Wherever plantain draws you a line, your soil is packed tight along that line. Daniel calls plants like this his reading weeds. He does not fight the plantain. He fixes what the plantain is pointing at. So when you see a patch of it, do not reach for the sprayer. Loosen that ground instead. Push a garden fork in as deep as it will go. Rock it back gently to crack the soil without turning it over. Move 6 inches and do it again. Then cover the loosened spot with 2 inches of mulch, leaves, or straw, or wood chips. 2 inches, no more needed. Do that, and something almost funny happens. The plantain fades away on its own over a season or two because you remove the only conditions it loves. No spray on earth does that. There is one more thing about plantain worth passing on. For generations, farm families and their grandmothers crushed a fresh plantain leaf and held it on a bee sting, and plenty of the old folks around here still do exactly that. I will let the tradition speak for itself, but I will say the Amish do not keep useless plants around, and they keep plantain close. So that is 3 weeds now. One feeds you, one fertilizes, one reads the ground for you. And remember that golden root I promised you at the start. We are getting closer, and the reason it matters lives even deeper than the plantain's message. But first, weed number 4, because this next plant does not just help your garden. It volunteers to take a bullet for it. Weed number 4 is lamb's quarters. You will know it by the shape and the dust. The leaves are shaped like little diamonds or goose feet, gray-green, and the newest growth at the top looks like it was dusted with white flour. Wipe it, and it comes right back. This plant grows fast in good garden soil, sometimes shoulder high by August, and for years I treated it as my number 1 enemy. Then Daniel showed me the leaves on the ones growing at the edge of his beet patch. They were full of pale winding squiggles like someone had scribbled inside the leaf. Those squiggles are leaf miners, tiny pests that tunnel between the leaf surfaces and ruin spinach, beets, and Swiss chard. And the leaf miners love lamb's quarters even more than they love your crops. So the old approach is to leave a few lamb's quarters standing at the edge of the garden as decoys. The miners settle into the decoy instead of your chard. Once a week, walk your decoy plants, look for leaves with those pale squiggles, pick off the marked leaves, drop them in a bucket of soapy water, not the compost. That one weekly habit pulls the next generation of miners out of your garden without a drop of spray. The bonus is that clean young lamb's quarters leaves are an old farm food, cooked exactly like spinach, and they were on tables around here long before spinach was. There is one firm rule with this plant, though: never let it go to seed. A single mature plant can drop tens of thousands of seeds that wait in your soil for years. So before it flowers, cut the plant off at ankle height with pruners. Cut it, do not pull it. Leave the root right there in the ground to rot and feed the soil. Tuck that cut not pull idea in your pocket, because it is about to become the theme of this whole video. Weed number 5, meanwhile, is the gentlest plant on this list, and it pays you a compliment. Weed number 5 is chickweed. It shows up in the cool months, a soft, tender mat of small, bright green leaves with tiny white flowers shaped like stars. There is a nearly foolproof way to identify it. Look closely at the stem in good light. True chickweed has a single fine line of hairs running up one side of the stem like a one-lane road, switching sides at each pair of leaves. Now, why would anyone welcome it? 2 reasons. First, chickweed is picky. It only grows thick in soil that is already rich, moist, and full of life. A carpet of chickweed is your ground telling you that 30 years of composting care are working. When I see it now, I take it as a compliment because it never once grew in my beds back in my chemical years. Second, chickweed does its growing in fall, winter thaws, and earliest spring, exactly when your vegetable beds would otherwise sit naked. Bare winter soil takes a beating. Rain hammers it, nutrients wash out of it, and the surface seals up. A chickweed blanket holds everything in place all winter for free, the same way the cover crops in the seed catalogs do, except nobody sends a bill. So through the cold months, leave it right where it is. Then in spring, about 2 weeks before you plant a bed, deal with it in one pass. Grip the mat and roll it up like a small small rug, roots and all, because chickweed roots are shallow as a saucer. Shake the soil off, lay the mat down as mulch in the pathway, or compost it. 2 weeks before planting, that is the timing so it cannot reseed into your warm season bed. And with that, we have arrived. 5 weeds down, and the 6th is the one from the beginning, the one standing by Daniel's carrot. The one with the root that comes out of the ground looking like it was dipped in gold. This is the part I promised you. The thing that root is doing 3 feet down that nobody ever explains. Here it is. Weed number 6 is the dandelion, and before you laugh, I want you to picture what is under one. A mature dandelion drives a single thick tap root straight down 2 feet, sometimes 3 feet, into layers of subsoil your vegetables will never touch. Down there below your topsoil sits a bank vault of minerals, calcium, potassium, iron, trace minerals that rain wash downward over decades, sitting out of reach of your lettuce and your beans, whose roots live in the top 8 or 10 inches. The dandelion root is a pump. All season long, it draws those deep minerals up out of the subsoil and loads them into its leaves. Then the leaves die back or get cut or get nibbled, and they break down right on the surface. And just like that, minerals from 3 feet down are lying in your topsoil in a form your vegetables can finally use. The plant is fertilizing your garden from below, from a layer no bag of 10, 10, 10, and no shovel will ever reach. That is why Daniel leaves that dandelion by his carrot row. It is mining for him, and the root does a second job while it mines. It cracks a channel through hard subsoil, and when that root eventually dies, the channel stays an open hallway that rainwater follows down and earthworms follow up. Add one more gift on top. Those yellow flowers are the first big meal of the year for honeybees, blooming when almost nothing else has. Now, the practical rule, and this is the part that ties the whole video together, with dandelions cut, do not pull. Pulling snaps that taproot, and a snapped root sends up 2 new plants, which is why pulling dandelions your whole life never worked. Instead, when a plant gets big, cut the leaves off at the crown with a knife. Compost those mineral-loaded leaves or lay them right under your tomatoes. The root stays down there pumping and drilling for you, and the plant simply grows a new salad of leaves to cut again. And if you don't want the seeds, mow or snip the flower heads within a day or 2 after they bloom before they turn to white puffballs. 2 days, that is your window, and the neighbors will never see a single puff. Cut the gold, keep the mine. That is the whole trick, and it is why I have not pulled a dandelion in years. And that is the heart of what Daniel taught me. The garden was never supposed to be a war, and half the plants I was fighting were on my side. The book is the whole 30 days of that lesson, laid out layer by layer, so your garden can start defending itself this season instead of next. The 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol, $17 down from $47. And it is the record of everything my neighbors taught me written down so it does not stay behind one fence line. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time, there is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So there they are. Purslane feeds you and shades the soil. Clover makes free fertilizer. Plantain reads your ground. Lamb's quarters takes a pest for you. Chickweed blankets the winter beds, and the dandelion mines gold from 3 feet down. Did your folks or your grandparents garden without chemicals? Tell me one thing they did below. Those are exactly the methods worth saving. I read every single one, and next time I'm going to show you the $3 bag of kitchen powder Daniel's community dusts around their squash and cucumber hills in June, and the one specific week you have to put it down for the beetles to leave your vines alone. Work with nature, not against it, and I'll see you in the garden.